So, on to Slaaneshi. Now, Slaaneshi was the pink crystal, and Slaaneshi was the crystal that got me meditating, because before her, I would simply stand. We would stand on either side of the crystals. Arctica would stand on the far side, I would stand on the near side, and we would look at each other, and then occasionally we would touch hands, and that's how we would commune over the crystals, and how the crystals would develop. So, the crystals on our a little altar, a little marriage thing, which I don't quite remember, but there were various formations. I think maybe also six. Um, they would be the ones we would be praying over, if you like, and our prayers would be in relation to the crystals on the outside of the altar, which were our children, our spirit children. And so Slaneeshi changed all that, and Slaneeshi was the fourth and last crystal along, but then there would be two other crystals birthed, Arda and Bubblegum Blue. So Arda and the Pictish crystal, Irish and Pictish. So green and blue from pink. Pink was the place that started it all. And she was the crystal of sensuality, because essentially we'd been prescribed from doing anything sensual. The most sensual we got, we could have very sensual gazes, but that was as close as it got. Sensual gaze, and then occasionally a touch of the hands. But with Slaneeshi, I meditated, and I meditated in cross-leg positions, and I meditated in positions with my legs out, with one of my legs out, different positions, all sorts of yogic positions. But these yogic positions were absurd and untoward for the arcanists who schooled my wife, Arctica. So she thought I was crazy. I thought she was crazy for not wanting to engage with the crystals on a sensual level, because they're our family, they're supposed to be our children, we're supposed to be close to them. So anyway, I would hold the crystal almost in my lap, sit cross-legged and hold the crystal just out in front of me with Slaneeshi, and that was what birthed the sensual nature of Slaneeshi. And then later, Arctica and I would kiss with tongues in very deep manners, and that was very long-tongued, very long black tongues. that was what Slaneeshi inspired in us, and she thought she was going crazy, and I thought it was just a path to something new, something individual, unique for Slaneeshi. So Slaneeshi, I can see why she became goddess of lust and perfection, but also a goddess of chaos in the Warhammer legend. But with the Warhammer legend, because it's fiction writers tapping into their imaginations, I guess some of them have had supernatural trips, have had, whether religiously inspired or drug induced, they've had trips into the Immaterium, into the warp, and they've been able to see these things about these actual gods that exist. But because they're maybe under Catholic inspiration, or maybe under some other doctrine, clean, crisp doctrine, they don't think our way is clean and crisp. For my part, I'm very much a fan of the clean and crisp, but I'm not shy about the sensual. I maybe was as a kid, but sensuality is of the essence in the mammalian type. So to be obsessed with trying to clasp down on sensuality is not mammalian. You're proving untrue to your organism. Yeah, so that's Slaneeshi. She was pink, she was vibrant. It was a small crystal, like Arda and like the Bubblegum Blue. It was a small crystal as opposed to the larger crystals to the west. To the west, it would be north if you were looking. Interesting, west or north. But the left side of the crystal crystals were larger. So these crystals didn't find it necessary to grow as huge as the others, and they were happy in themselves. As I said, Anne also did the same thing when she went from the most beautiful big white Trinitarian crystal to very small green crystals, but spread wide. She also became small to embrace her inner beauty. Yeah, so Slaaneshi, I don't know how much of what's told of her palaces and her trials and things, and her consuming elvish souls in the Warhammer universe is true, but what I can say is that if we consume souls, it can be simply part of a process of restoration, so it's nothing to be feared. The Christians would have you fear us as the worst demons, soul-consuming demons. Oh no, but no, ours is a process of beauty, so it's benevolent. It's not necessarily indiscriminately benevolent, but it is benevolent, so you have nothing to fear with us. I've seen her twice, Slaneeshi. I accessed her once through a device. I was in a Christian safe house in Piktistan. I didn't realize that was where I was at the time. I didn't have any knowledge. I was on a more or less Christian path, a little bit of Zoroastrianism at the time. I instantly recognized her as one of my own and longed for her. And I spoke to her for some time, and she was obviously not happy, and I can see why afterwards, because I was thrown out of that realm in an epic way. They tried to capture me in a hell-like realm, and I burned my way free. So yeah, this is quite a lot to digest, I guess, for people who aren't used to the spiritual planes. But anyway, so I accessed Slaaneshi there, and then recently I was taken away from a place where there were lots of spiritual ongoings. I was taken away from there by a hospital crew, and I went to another place where there was also spiritual activity in this holding realm. I went on quite an epic voyage there. It was quite enlightening for me, quite awakening. But I saw Slaaneshi there just before the people came to take me away. So I saw her again in a crystalline plane. She obviously likes accessing these crystalline areas of dimensions. So screen of devices where I saw her first, and an arcane device didn't need any power to activate. It was just there without power. I don't know what the source was, but accessed her there first, and then accessed her in the side pane glass inner door. So I just saw her there. So anyway, I trust that she's well. For all I know, she's trapped in an other side realm, trapped in the Immaterium, as it's called in the Warhammer world, but I don't think it's the Immaterium as such, because I think it's a physical plane for arcanists, and I think she can manifest expressions of herself in the material. So I will search for those, and yeah, I look forward to seeing her again. When I initially saw her, my intention was to make her my wife, but she's a daughter of mine, so that's not what was going on. It's just the close proximity to one of my own. But yeah, I'll hug her, and yeah, family will finally be reunited. It's been a long time. It's been many aeons. So aeon is a term which obviously expresses a long period of time, but I think aeon expresses better than ages, because we understand ages to be periods of human civilization, and this, I think, has been going on for a very long time. But anyway, Slaaneshi, read up about her in Warhammer lore. She's very scary there, but I assure you she's not as scary. Her consuming of Eldar souls is probably to put them back in their place, because they were the crystal. 2 to the left of Anne. She was to the right of Anne. So yeah, those Eldar souls have a place in her family. So she's just showing them the way. It's so in the Warhammer lore. I'm talking about Slaaneshi now. So in the Warhammer lore, the Drukhari feed part of their energies to Slaanesh, and they engage in acts of depravity to try to keep Slaanesh at bay, to try to keep sane. So I think there may be some truth to that, but these Dark Eldar, these Dark Elves, I think are closer to the true path, because they see more of Slaaneshi, more of her true self, her potential, and the Eldar Harlequins as well, the Harlequins, Harlequin solitaires who play her role. I think they see her for who she is, and they don't fear her. And that's the reason the solitaires are able to play her, where all other Eldar fear her like nothing else. Because they understand that while she may consume their souls, she's not after them as such. I believe the Atman, the soul, remains no matter what happens, so I don't believe the Christian hell or being consumed by Slaaneshi can destroy the soul. I believe the soul will always remain. It will take another form, and it will eventually be reborn. It'll be reborn at a better time. So yeah, I don't think Slaaneshi is anything to be concerned about. I think she's a great goddess of beauty again. Goddess of lust and perfection, according to the Warhammer world. Goddess of sensuality, according to me. So, and that sensuality was the perfection of our art, of our craft, because our craft was lacking. That's what our craft was lacking. So she is the one that completed the house of Arctica. And she led to Arda, which is the most beautiful plane that I've seen created, and she led to Bubblegum Blue, who is the origin of suns for me. So the suns that were denied me previously, the others were female crystals, and this was a male crystal, and for me associated with the Picts and the Pixies and Pictland. So associated with very strange people who are theorized to be an offshoot of the Aryans, but who have a language that doesn't fit in clearly with anyone. And recently the Bretons have been trying to claim them because of one king's list that used Breton kings' names, but I don't believe that they were Bretons. I believe that if anything they were closer to the Gaels, but I believe they were a language isolate that may have descended from or been descended by the Scythians. So the Scythians and the Picts were both horse people, and again, this is a tangent, but I'm not going to make a Bubblegum Blue video for now. So this is Slaaneshi's younger brother, and he's associated with the Picts. The Picts have Mares as wife, that's horses. Unicorns, of course, are associated with Scotland, so unicorns, and then we have a myth. I have a myth of the blue wolf on the mountain, which I'll go into in a separate video, but that's essentially the first son, the repeating again, because the Picts were created in ancient times, in very, very ancient times, prior to memory, and the Blue Wolf on the Mountain was a more recent event, but the Blue Wolf on the Mountain reflects what was already in place earlier. Yeah, so the last thing I'd mention is that obviously I mentioned before that Slaaneshi has some similarity to the wife I'm calling Ivy, the Celtic serpent wife. So she was a serpent goddess of Ireland, and she was my wife when I was a prince of Hindustan. So yeah, Slaaneshi has some Celtic significance. She comes from the world of the Celtic other side. That's her inspiration, if not her lineage. Obviously, I already had that connection, and in this life, I'm of Celtic descent. I have Norse Gael descent on my Afrikaans side, and then I have Saxon descent on my English side, which is the Saxons were influenced by the Celts anyway. The Saxons have Celtic diphthongs, which none of the other Germanic peoples have. Yeah, and then my Germanic roots, obviously, as I said, the Germanics became separated from the caste system, from our origins, and the Goddies and the Jarls got a bit confused, and I still owe a lot to Germanic identity. But in terms of the Germanic, I associate more with the Vanya than with the Aesir. So the Vanya are the gods of true form. The Aesir are the winning clan of the gods in the war of the gods that's set up in Germanic mythology. Not sure what else to say about Slaanesh. I will inquire. I feel that Slaanesh will contact me when she needs to or wants to. So I don't involve her so much in the fire ceremonies. I do light the odd incense stick in her honor, but mostly I leave that up to her. I'm sure she's at ease, if not also at odds where she is, and she'll work her way to me eventually, or I'll work my way to her. But for now, I don't dedicate so many flames in her honor, but I do remember her always.